Today's session is about Schoology. Now, Schoology is a platform. It's actually a learning management system, and we use the letters LMS. You've probably heard of that before, maybe. But a learning management system is basically a way to hold a, a lot of different pieces of information that you need in order to teach courses online or even supplement classes that are face to face. So, basically, the objective for today is to demonstrate a product that might be helpful to you, especially in regards to the way it can help build community and interaction within your courses. So, an important piece that we want to drive home here at Trevecca is really the community that you can build with Schoology. Now, there are lots and lots of other features that Schoology provides, but we're not going to dive into all of those today. We may not dive into them at later sessions either, because we really just want to focus on that one aspect of the LMS. But the session should be no more than 25 minutes, maybe less, depending on how quickly we can get through everything. But I want to first of all tell you what Schoology is. Then I want to talk to you about some of the features. And then finally, we'll talk about some of the ways you can use it in your classroom. And Gail, in your instance, maybe how to share with the different professors you work with how they may use it. So I'll share a lot of ideas that may work in different ways depending on the content area or whatever it is, the course that is being taught. So, like I said, Schoology is a course manager. It's a content manager. Um, it's sort of a social platform like a Facebook, except it's private. So the problem with Facebook is it's not entirely private. Even if you have a private group on Facebook, there's a way to at least see that there's a group available. But with Schoology, you can't see anything that is within your group unless you specifically share that information with somebody else. So it's a much more secure platform than something like a Facebook, but it uses the same concepts as Facebook to do the kinds of things that we need to do on a school campus, like create courses, upload documents, share different other media content like photos or video, things like that. Create assignments. It even has a grade book, but we're not going to get into all of that, as I mentioned before. So the main thing we want to talk about is the communication hub aspect of Schoology, and that's really what we're going to dive into, I think, today. It's got a familiar look and feel. Like I said, it's similar to Facebook. So anytime you roll out a Schoology environment to your class, they're going to understand the way it works simply by looking at the system, and it's so similar to Facebook. And let's face it, just about everybody has a Facebook page or at least knows about Facebook. So it's very familiar. And I think that's why they created it this way, is because they felt like there wouldn't be a learning curve since everybody's familiar with Facebook. And of course, there is lots and lots of other stuff. But basically, it's just a learning management system that looks a lot like Facebook. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over the features of Schoology. There are basically three different areas. You've got the home area, and on the home area, you will see personal notes that you can send to and from different people. You can even create notes for yourself. It's just sort of a depository for anything that you want to know about any of the courses you are teaching. The home page actually can keep track of several courses at once. You can make notes about any kind of course. It's not course specific in the home section. It's sort of like a broad overview of everything that's going on in your Schoology portal. It will show the courses that you're enrolled in. It will also show you the courses that you're teaching. It will show you a calendar of any events or any assignments that you've created. It will also give you a portal to create and send and receive messages from your students that are in any of your classes, not necessarily any specific class, but all of them put together. So like I said, it's a general portal for anything that involves you and Schoology. Then there's a courses portal. And when you go to the courses portal, this is where you can have multiple courses. So you might be teaching 3 courses. So that means when you click on the course portal, you'll choose which course you want to look at. You'll be able to see the materials that you assign for that course, badges, which we'll talk about a little bit later, the members of that course. You can also see analytics, which is also really cool. And we'll talk about that a little more as well. And like I said before, and I'm going to probably say this a lot of times, there's other stuff that's involved with Schoology that we don't necessarily want to drive home here at Trevecca right now, but you may find a use for it at some time in the future. But like I said, there's a lot that we won't get to here. So, and in the materials section, we'll talk about this all a lot more in depth, but you can make assignments, you can upload files, discussions, albums, photo albums, things like that, and other media, things like videos, audio, clips, PDFs, documents, things like that. Finally, there is a groups section. This is, I think, one of the most important areas of Schoology, because I think one thing that we're sort of lacking here at Trevecca with our current platform, our current online management platform, is a way to create groups easily and allow people to cooperate without having to kind of go through a portal that's not the most user friendly. So we can do all of this right now, but it's just not as easy as it is in Schoology. So the groups feature is really, really powerful. It's simple to create a group, and it will spit out a little code. You share that code with your students, and when they type it in, they're automatically joined into the group. So for instance, you could share those codes to 5 students, and those 5 students would be in a group. If you want 7 groups of 5, you just put those codes on a document that you send out to your students, and they will join the group based on that code. So there's not a lot of management that you have to do. The students take care of that. So it's a pretty neat thing, the groups feature, and we'll touch on that a lot more in a little bit. Discussions are very powerful in the group portal. You can also share just about anything that you can share anywhere else on Schoology, like albums, files, media, resources, things like that. So it's a really, really good tool for collaboration, and that's a tool that we really need here at Trevecca. So that's why we're going to push Schoology for using that kind of a feature. So, and then finally, ways to use Schoology. Some of this is overlapping, but for discussion boards, you can use it to kind of store all of your resources that you may use throughout the course. You can use Sakai and our Connect platform. That's what most of you are probably familiar with calling it right now, the online platform that we use. You can do all of that there, but it's really easy in Schoology to dump a lot of files at once into your Schoology platform, and you have immediate access to them. And you can share them with your class very easily that way too. So it's a resource vault, it's a calendar, a message center, and a collaboration space. So these are all really good ways to use Schoology. And I'm going to demo for you a lot of these features that I've just talked about. But before I do that, does anybody have any questions? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the demonstration. I just want to make sure you guys can see the Schoology screen. If you cannot see the Schoology screen, just send me a message in the chat room box, or you can raise your hand, or you can unmute and ask the question, and tell me using your voice that you can't see the screen. I just want to make sure you guys can all see it. Okay, good. So when you go to the home space, this is what you're going to see. At the top, you see the tab for home, you see a tab for courses, and you see a tab for groups. And of course, you also see the resources tab. This is what I was talking about earlier, where you can post a lot of resources. You can either put them in a personal area, you can put them into a public area, or a group area. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that before I forgot, because I didn't actually create a slide about the resources, but that's where you could put those pieces. So I'm going to go back to the home page here. So you're going to create a profile as soon as you get into Schoology, and this profile basically gives you a way to, like with Facebook, to share a little bit more about yourself. You can be as in-depth or be as careful with the information about yourself that you want to give. You can give phone numbers and email addresses if you want, but that's not required. But that's your profile. But you're going to see over here that you've got a calendar. Okay, you can create messages. You can create new messages to anybody inside your network. So your network is all of the students that are in any of your classes. So you'll populate your classes with people, and they need to have a code for your course. Now, and just a reminder before I go too far in depth, some of this may be a little confusing to understand how it's all connected together, but this is not actually a how-to session. This is more of just a demonstration to show that you can do it. So just keep that in mind. So I know there will be questions about how to do it, and feel free to ask any of those questions, but just remember that this is more of a demo. So I want to show you that you can do it. And then our next session, which will be in a few weeks, that will be more about the how-to. All right, so in the courses, I have hit create, and I've already created a course that's called Intro to Instructional Design. Now this is just a sample class, but I'm going to click on this course. And you're going to notice that there is a code right here, an access code. So this code is what you share with your class. You would put it in an email, or you could put it on your homepage of your Connect online portal and say, you could say, to do this assignment, go to Schoology and use this access code to join my course. So then they would just go to schoology.com, plug in the course code, the access code, and then they're automatically joined into your class. Those people will show up in your members section. So right now I have a different email address that's a member of this course, so I'm in there twice. This is my Trevecca email address, and this is my Gmail address. So you have to have a unique email address per person, but of course for you, when you're teaching, or for your professors when they're teaching, they will simply ask their students to create a Schoology account with their Trevecca email address. So once they join, they'll all appear right here. Now this is really, really convenient because you don't have to go out and search for people in a list. You don't have to share links or anything like that. You just say go to Schoology, type in this code, and you're automatically in the class. It's really, really, really easy. All right, so some of the materials that I want to show you. So I'm going to click back on Intro to Instructional Design. This will take me to the course homepage. So this is different than the homepage. Just to be clear, the homepage will show anything that's going on in your entire portal. But when I go to the courses, this will be specific to only the course that you've chosen. If I were to create more than one course, I would click create, and I would have several of these courses listed out right here. There's no limit to the number of courses you can create. So, all right, back to the course that I created as an example here. So you can see I've added several documents to this course. There's a Word document, I've got a PDF, and right here I've actually got a Keynote document. So some of your users will be on Macs, and if they use Keynote, for instance, this is a Keynote document. Now, this will not be able to open directly here in the portal, but what's really great about Schoology is you can use this to hold any kind of document, whether it opens in a browser or whether it doesn't. What happens when you click on it is it gives you a page that you can download the item. So when I click again, it will download the item, and then I can open it on my computer natively. if I've got a Mac, for instance, since this is a Keynote file. Now for other more standard files, files like PDF or Word documents, if you click on those files, they will open directly in Schoology, which is a really, really nice feature because I think a lot of times professors want their information to be embedded directly into their portal, which is pretty cool. So I like that. Now, if you want to download the file as a student, you can always do that by clicking Download File. And then you can open it natively on your computer as well. So like I said early on, this is a really good place to store your resources, sort of as just sort of as a vault, like a resource vault. It's very easy to do that. PDFs open as well. This is our spring training schedule, which we sent out to everybody, but you can see it's really easy to share this, and it's embedded directly into Schoology. I think this is great. So now you also have the ability in Schoology to create folders which can hold materials that are specific for every week. So you could create week 1 resources, week 2, week 3, week 4, all of your weeks. And then inside of these weeks, then you could have all the materials you want for that week. To do that, you simply click the plus, and then you can add any of these kinds of resources. You can add an assignment, a quiz, files, discussions, really just about anything you can think of. Now, the one thing I want to be careful about mentioning is some of these things are really good resources, things like the tests and assignments. But just to be clear, these assignments will not automatically update in our grading system at Trevecca. So use these kinds of resources as informal assessments, maybe formative assessments, but nothing that's going to be graded, nothing that needs to have a grade automatically pushed over to the system. For instance, one thing you could use this for is a discussion, like a devotional, for instance. So you could post your devotional, and then all of your students could then post comments below. And it's a very easy way to participate in a devotion. So I'm just going to show you real quick. And then you can like comments, and you can get rid of comments that you've created very easily. This is a lot more simplistic than the way we currently do it. So for discussion groups, things like that, there's no better way to do it. So any questions yet before I move on to the next thing? I don't want to go too far without asking for some questions if you have them. So one thing I will mention too is the icon right here with the pencil. That tells me that when I created this devotional, I actually created it as an assignment, not as a discussion. Students can still participate as if it is a discussion, like I showed you, but students can also post, they can post files. So for instance, if you wanted students to post something private, for instance, prayer requests, maybe there's a prayer request that they don't necessarily want to share with the entire class, but they just want to share with you, they can post it as a file right here. And the students will have a little bit of a different view. They will actually have a button that says upload attachment. And so that's one way they can give you, for instance, confidential files that you want to see, that they want you to see. So if you see the speech bubbles on the side, that represents an actual discussion. So if I click on this, it will bring me to the familiar box. Now the difference is, as you can see, I can post files, links, and resources. So files are any kind of file that I can upload from my computer. Links are hyperlinks, so different websites, things like that. You don't even have to click link. You can actually just paste it right here, and it will automatically become a link. In resources, are resources that you've already uploaded to Schoology. They'll all show up right here. And what's really neat is if you lump resources into particular groups, that keeps you from sharing resources among different places. For instance, maybe you want a bunch of resources available to one group and a different set of resources to a different group. So you can do that here. You can keep them organized by group. Now, I don't have any resources in here, so there's nothing to attach, but you can do it. I'm just checking over here to make sure I'm hitting everything. So one other thing I wanted to show you. Now, I'm not going to completely bypass this, but I do want to mention there is a grade book. It's too obvious to skip over, but this is one of the things we got to be careful about, is because this grade book would not automatically move over into our colleague grade book here on campus. So it may be best not to use the grade book in Schoology. It's a great feature, but maybe one that we don't want to use here at Trevecca. So right now, at least. Okay, so here's another thing, badges. I think this is pretty neat because it's an informal way that you can sort of give positive feedback. They've got some pre-created badges here, things like good listener, great, perfect attendance, successfully completing your homework. These are just generic, but you can actually create your own as well. If you click on add badges, you can create a new badge, or you can import from your resources. The neat thing about that is if people on Schoology, maybe other professors have created badges, they can share them with you. That's kind of neat. They just export them to a resource, share it to you, and then you've got that resource as well. So as a group, maybe you would want badges for the religion department or badges for the MOL department, whatever it might be. Maybe there's specific badges, and you can share those with all the professors in that particular group. It's kind of a neat, I would say fun, kind of a fun thing to do, but it's also more work than maybe, it depends on what, every professor is going to have a different perspective on that, but it is in there. So now here's another thing, analytics. Analytics is something that I think is something that could be very important to someone's class. For instance, discussions. If you want to see how many times a particular discussion has been viewed, this will show you that information. So you can see maybe perhaps if you've put 5 different devotions and you want people to choose one of the devotions and write an in-depth review or thoughts or whatever on the devotion, this will give you an idea of which devotions worked and which devotions maybe you could have put a little more work into. Obviously, the ones that maybe people appreciated more will have more hits. So maybe that's a poor example. Devotion should be seen by everybody and responded on by everybody. But I think you guys get the point. So anyway, this is just a way you can analyze the results of different activities, assignments, discussions, things like that. It'll show you how many hits, how many comments, and so forth. So really good thing to use. And there are a lot more in-depth kinds of analytics you can get into, but this isn't particularly about the analytics. I just want to show that it is there. And finally, you can see the members of your course. So this shows all the members of the course, regardless of the groups. Now, again, groups is another important thing that you can use in your class, but when you go there, you'll get a similar portal, except you'll only see people in those particular groups. So we'll talk about that in just a minute, but I want to make sure there are no questions at this point before I move on. I'm going to show my message. Oh, nope, nobody's messaging either. All right, so now let's move on to groups. So you can see the code right here. It starts with KMG. I just want to point that out so that you can see it is a different code whenever you create a group, but I'm going to show you that code. So there should be a unique code for each group. So let's check that out real quick. So I'm going to click on groups, and I have already created two groups. I've got small group 1 and I've got small group 2. So if I click small group 1, oh, and by the way, this little crown right here, it means I'm the king. It actually means I'm the administrator, but I like that they use a crown there. So anyway, I'm going to click on small group 1. And if I click on members, there will be a code right here. So if I share this code with my students that I want in small group 1, as they use this code, they will automatically be collected into this group. Very, very easy way. You don't, again, this makes it much faster than having to go through a list of your, some classes might have 50 students, probably not in online, but it could. And if there are that many students, having to go through and pick everybody that's going to be in that group, it could take some time. So it's much easier to choose the names and then just post this access code beside them. Or an even easier way is to say, hey guys, here are 5 codes. I want you guys to pick out, I want you guys to message each other, communicate with each other, figure out who's going to be in your group. You have a limit of 5 people, and 5 of you use this code and join the group. And then they'll figure out, once it's full, they'll have to, choose to they'll have to go to a different group. So lots of different ways to create these groups, but having an access code, I think, makes things a lot faster. So again, once you do this, people will all populate inside this group. And this is another place where you can create discussions just among your group. There are no discussions going on right now, but if I create one, then now everybody in my small group can participate in this discussion, and they can add resources, files, and links just like they can in anything else. That's what's really, really cool about Schoology, I think, is that all the tools you can use in one place, you can use in another place. They're not just going to take away tools for some random reason that you don't know of. It's a consistent platform. Everywhere you go, it's going to be familiar to you. So very easy to use. You can upload albums, this could be pictures or videos. And you can create resources just for this group. Now, again, back to resources. If you go to the resources, you can create group resources, or you can create personal resources. I've actually created some resources here. These are test questions. It's a fake question. I haven't actually created the question. I just began making that. Or you can actually create public questions, public resources. Public resources are kind of neat too, because if it's something you think other people in the world could benefit from, then post your questions online. And different teachers, if you've got them labeled well, they can find them and they can put them on their own courses. So this is a really good way to share resources with colleagues. All right, so finally, we're wrapping up here. Only got about 5 minutes left, and I just want to talk about the ways to use Schoology in your classroom. We've already discussed that a little bit, but if you guys have any thoughts before I move on, please go ahead and interject those comments. All right, so as I mentioned before, Schoology is really, really strong when it comes to discussion boards and collaborative space. That's what we really want to drive. That's what we want to push here at Trevecca with using Schoology. Like I said a few times before, it's not something we necessarily want to drive in other areas like the grade book and other things like that unless it's informal, because we already have processes in place for that. But as far as the discussion boards and collaborative space, it's hard to beat that right now. So Schoology is the place to go for that. We can embed this into your course. We can post the codes. We can post the links, ask students to sign up. It's free. It's completely free. So using this for discussion boards and collaborative space, to me, it's almost a no-brainer. It's too easy not to use. Other things you can use it for is a resource vault. You can upload a lot of your documents. They can just be there stored and ready to go so that if someone asks for something, you don't have to search for it on your computer. If you know it's a resource for this class, just post it up here onto the space and students just go and they can find it. Very, very easy. And we can talk about that more today or in the next session about how to, but definitely these resources are available, so it's easy to use as a resource vault. The calendar, we already have calendars in place in our current process and our current system, but you can use the Schoology calendar if you'd like. Probably it'd be best to use for informal types of things, but nevertheless, it is there and available. And then finally, a message center. Again, we've got a message center built in to connect. So you'd probably want to use that first, but it's also available here in Schoology as well. Something that's neat too about the message center built into Schoology is that once you send a message, you get the message in the platform, but it also sends you a notification via email. Uh, so that helps as well. Make sure that the people that are getting the messages are aware of those messages. So that's really all I have to go through today. But again, if you guys have any questions or any thoughts about it, how much you like it, how much you dislike it, please go ahead and unmute and let me know.